Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's a chess show on Pod TV. My name is Sasha Star, and today's guests we have Professor Ken Regan. Welcome to the show, Ken.
Thank you very much. It's great to be on again. Nice day here.
Great. So it's in my place, and it's always great to have you on the show. And
Mhm.
also we have Jim Eat from Eat Foundation. Welcome to the show, Jim.
Thank you, Sasha. Great to be here.
Good
Of
to see
course,
you again.
we have to start and probably finish with U.S. Championship Open section and ladies section, and that was, in my opinion, probably one of the most exciting tournaments in the last several years. Caruana demonstrated, I would say, dominance in the open field. And in ladies, it was until the last 20 seconds of the tournament. It was very
Yes, that's right. I
exciting,
was watching. Yes.
excitement. And well, Ken, what's your takes on this?
Well, first of all, the notable clash that sewed up the tournament for Fabiano Caruana was one really between generations. Because I must say that perhaps the most enduring legacy of the men's is actually the performance of Abhimanyu Mishra, who, 2 years ago, or maybe was it three, when he became a grandmaster by playing in tournaments that were in person in Europe, he was this little pipsqueak kid. Now he suddenly had a bit of teenager shooting up, and he looks like a polished competitor. He had a definite 2,700 plus performance, but Fariano put him in its place in his the last round game, which I can show. And it's an interesting game. Caruana plays brilliantly for 25 or so moves, and then somehow doesn't put black away the way you would expect. And the game takes until move 75. So I'll present that, and then I'll present the win by Carissa Yip in the penultimate round of the U.S. Women's, where she did, however, both of the leaders lost in the last round. Okay, so here we go. You should see Caruana Mishra showing just the tab visible.
I don't see it yet.
No.
Oh, no. Let's see. I have. Let's see. So maybe something's gone wrong. I'll try stop sharing and then try share. Maybe I'll share the whole machine. Wait, let's go back to this. Okay, so present. Share screen. All right, I'll try the tab again. Share. Is it working?
No.
No. All right.
Now, well, it's working now.
Okay. All right. Just lagging a bit then.
Hmm.
Okay. So Fabiano is white, and Mishra played the Sicilian, which you don't see as much. I mean, the E5 and Gioco Piano seem to be ruling the day.
Yeah.
But even with the Sicilian, we're not seeing the classical lines as much anymore. We're seeing the Moscow Bishop B5 check and the Rossolimo if black plays
Right.
Knight C6. So what this does, though, is this often leads to Marazzi bind style formations with white's pawns on E4 and C4, controlling the center. And white also has traded off the light squared bishop, which often gets somewhat blocked by those pawns.
Exactly.
And then the main thing is white is able to get in the move D4, and now we set up the classic Marazzi bind formation. Now, what's funny about this is that black is going to get something that I always regarded as the achievement of counterplay, forcing white to double pawns with the knight on C3. But Fabiano Caruana shows in this game that it really doesn't matter. Okay, so right now, white guards C3. It's true. Maybe I would have put the bishop on G5 kind of automatically, but so black plays A6. This is very normal. Black will consider playing B5 to challenge white's pawn center, but right now white has 3 pieces on it. Now white is playing B4 to um, start up an attack. And now black starts counterplay. One of black's resources in this position is to exchange pieces and also try to take over the weak dark square on d4. Okay. But here, this is the amazing thing. White recaptures with the pawn
Wow.
after the trade of bishops. Not the knight, which might have left the c4 pawn vulnerable. But something like this, I'd say, oh my gosh, black ought to be able to block c5 and guard b7, and then black will have a wonderful position, especially with the knight coming to e5 to hit
Yeah, if
c.
you could move the knight from c6 to c5, if that was legal, that would be nice.
That would be probably winning for black.
Yeah.
Positionally strong anyway, but can't quite do it. So black trades, and now what Caruana foresaw is that he would have this move to dissolve the bad pawns and soften up black's position. So the interesting question is what happens to black if black takes this pawn? And the answer is that white has a very subtle attack. Okay, so not knight g5, but rook f d1.
Yeah.
And now e5 rather than knight g5. But so this requires a lot of calculation, quite clearly. But black has been wrong-footed. White has taken over the center. Now black's knight on g4 doesn't have the point that it had.
Right, and you could push it back to h6 with h3, and I would not have considered c5, thinking that dx c5 would be the obvious reply. But this is I'd much prefer white in this position.
Right. So this is, and one wonders if Fabiano Caruana prepared this. I haven't put this game. I don't have my up-to-date chess base installed in this machine to see where a book begins. But this is something that one can quite commonly ascribe to prep. Surprising idea to double your own pawns, but now you dissolve the pawns. It's still, now black plays knight e5. This is a very sensible way to play.
Yeah.
And black falls back into a compact position. People play the hedgehog, are used to having formations like this.
But not with the Isolani on d6.
Right. And the Isolani on d6 is not so nice. Now, the other problem with black's position is that the king side is relatively undefended and black's rooks are not helping defend it.
Right.
So white goes right to work,
right,
softening up the position. Black brings the queen out. And now rook f4. This is the sort of position that separates a 2700 player from me. It's also not one of the engine's top 3 moves that you're seeing on the screen. What would I have played here? I might have given thought to rook f3. That looks like a logical move, even over protecting c3, so I can move the knight.
But rook f4, I immediately would think I got to dislodge the knight on d5 and destroy the protector. So, I wouldn't have played rook f4 without deep consideration. Rook f3 would have been my move,
Yeah, I mean, if you're playing blitz chess, you wonder if black can take this pawn. The answer is white can go rook g4.
Right.
No, it's actually not rook g4. You just go in and attack. Okay, so much for what I know. Rook g4 a good move? No, rook g4 was rook c1 check. Never mind.
Yeah.
Okay, so obviously there's a lot more thinking that has to go on here. I'm trying to think without the engine, but okay, so black did not, however, cannot play rook takes c3 because that just leaves too much open on the king side. So what's happening here? Black plays knight e5. That protects a lot of squares on the king side, except that it allows white to invade on f6. And white just starts a power play, and now already black is getting in trouble in this position.
Right.
So, the engine says that black has to play king h8 to get out of potential checks. Now white has energy on the dark squares.
Another move I don't know if I would have played.
Yeah.
3.
Yep. Queen goes.
Okay.
Queen goes H3. I'd say white is in some positions going to play knight F6 check. So that's what's luring over black. And in fact, at this point, Mishra felt the threat of capture on G6 and knight F6 check so great he had to eliminate the knight. So now we get to the second phase of the game. Now, according to the engine, white is over 4 pawns advantage. This is absolutely winning. And the strange impression is, why does white retreat over the next 10 plus moves? So this is really rather funny. Got to credit to Mishra for not giving up, although without even having a pawn for the exchange and still under the attack, I would consider resigning this as black. Okay, now you've given white an open file to boot, but white has to find something to press the advantage. And somehow maybe this regrouping was, black does have a strong knight on E5, guards F7, blocks the diagonal. White's queen is just gone too. So white does have to, do have to ask white, what are you doing? Maybe the right thing in this position is to bring up the H and G pawns. Although I don't know, the knight on E5 guards G6.
Right.
So black just stolidly overprotects D6. And, is there mate? So I can have a mate on F8 or something? Well, no. So this is very funny. Now white starts retreating. Well, black's queen comes active again. White's queen goes over there. I don't know what it's doing over there.
Infiltrate on E8, but that takes it away. Yeah,
it takes it away. Now white goes back to D1. White has shed a pawn. And the computer has said that white has lost half of his advantage, although 2 pawns up is still very commanding. And then the other thing about this is it does more or less force this move by black. Okay, we've got our block again. Okay, so what has white achieved over the past 14 moves? You've retreated, you've lost a pawn. Black still has a good knight on E5. You're still 2 pawns up according to the engine, but it's not so clear this is winning. So to Caruana's credit, and also maybe helped by reaching the move 40 time control, Caruana regroups, and what he realizes is that he can attack black's queen side. So here we go. This is starting the assault against black's queen side. And we fixed B7 as a weakness, and B7 is a weakness that black's knight cannot guard. Okay, so now we go in there, and this actually forces black to trade queens. So now it's the weakness on B7 has been changed into an advanced pawn, again, that black cannot easily attack. Okay, so now this does take some calculation.
Yeah, absolutely.
So giving up this pawn, but now B7 weakness is going to manifest itself a different way. See, black has 2 pawns for the exchange here, but black cannot guard B7. Maybe the important thing to ask is what happens to rook B5.
I would say I would play that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, but then you've unguarded the D pawn, and
of course, yeah.
So that's the problem with it. And then the weakness, if black moves the knight, the weakness on B7 comes back into play. So instead, Mishra played G4, hoping to get some counterplay on the king side. And now white is finally able to attack on B7. And from this point on, now finally white the game is really over.
Right.
But
that was very curious. I really didn't know what white was up to for a while there.
Yeah, it's finding a plan, or maybe finding move 40, because the game really was very strategically complicated. And white here, this is a well-known easy rook ending win, Lucena position with black's king cut off. So okie doke. So that was the
and I have a request. I wonder if I have a presentation to show as well. And I wonder do I need Mark to help me get that on screen?
Yep, go right ahead. Yeah, that's good time. Yep.
Can I'm sorry. Okay, I just took it down. Let me try again. Window, there it is, and share. Can you see that? You can't.
Not yet.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to get that on screen without Mark's help. Okay. I don't know what to do. So, in any case,
you have to click something to highlight. Oh, there it goes.
there it is.
Okay.
Oh.
There's Abhimanyu Mishra. Yeah.
That's Mishra. A couple of years ago at the U.S. Open with me, Mishra won the first Arthur Award that the Eid Foundation gives, and when he was an international master before he became a grandmaster. He was the youngest international master in the United States. So I'll stop sharing now. But I just wanted to point out that I've been following him for quite a while. And I got to see his dad at that tournament as well. And he said that the Eid Foundation was the first to recognize him. Since then, he's been awarded the Stanford and other recognition, of course. Now he's way beyond me. I can't help him anymore. He's on his own, but he's doing great. And his performance at the U.S. Championship was impressive.
Yeah, that's right. And other young players did not do badly. Neiman managed an even score and had some nice games. And the other impressive thing is this was a tournament with 2682 rating average, category 18, up there with the usually larger Soviet championships back in the day. So,
can you believe that, Ken? That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's how strong these guys are. Like Wesley So is one of these guys that I think is an extremely strong player, but he's taken a back seat to Fabio, and but he's a solid 2,700 plus player.
Unfortunately, Nakamura was missing because
that's true.
That is true. Even stronger.
It would have been even stronger if he had played. Correct.
It'd be interesting to see what it would take to get a category 19 U.S. championship. But this had Andrew Tang, who did not play badly. He was rated 2496 as the U.S. junior representative. I'm not sure, but anyway, it was Wesley So, Lanier Dominguez Perez, and Abhimanyu Mishra in a big tie for second place on 6.5 out of 11, +2. And then Hans Niemann and Sam Sevian with and Ray Robeson with an even score, a good mix of
Shanklin and Robeson have been on our Olympiad teams. They're strong players, but
there's great competition now to make the team.
And Ken, I know if you win the U.S. Open, you get seeded into the championship.
Oh, that's true too. Yes.
I don't think it's the U.S. Junior, but I could be wrong.
Okay. Was the U.S. Junior back in the day. That's how I got to play in 1978.
Well, maybe it's still true.
Yeah.
Don't go by me. Yeah. But anyway, in any case, the field is just astoundingly strong. And these are some world championship contenders. These are not just, good players by the standards of the United States. St. Louis has made these players world championship contenders, and so St. Louis is on the world map, not just the U.S. map now.
Yeah, that's a good feather in the cap, and I hope that's well understood. Okay, so I'm going to give the ladies their due.
Yes, this was exciting.
And there's something numerically very interesting to note about the standings of the ladies tournament. Carissa Yip won with 8.5, then Tokira Yonova was second with 8. Alice Lee with 7.5. Again, a great performance by her, and she's Mishra's age. Then Tatiana Abramanian at 7. Then Irina Krush at 6.5. Then we jumped down a whole point to Nazi Paikadze at 5.5. Then Ruyang Yan on 5, and Anna Zatansky on 4.5. And then we finally hit 2 players with the same score. But it was like descending a chromatic musical scale in terms of the numbers of points. But it was not like that for most of the tournament.
I'm just looking at the cross table, and there's all zeros and ones. There's so few, half draws.
Yes, that's right.
Oh, there you are. Yeah.
There were 2 rounds where all the men's games were draws, and there were 4 decisive women's games in one of those rounds.
Yeah. Look at
You
that.
mentioned a Nazi. How many points did you have finally?
Paikadze had 5.5. Yeah.
No soup for Nazi.
Yeah, well, whatever. Anyway, silly Seinfeld pun. But for most of the tournament,
I get it now.
Tokyonova and Yip were far ahead of the field, but they both came back. Both of these zeros for Tokyonova happened in the last 2 rounds, and Yip's zero happened in the very last round. But let's not say that. Let's instead look at a very beautiful win as black. How to get dynamic play.
And before we start, is this Yip's was she defending champion coming into the tournament?
Try to remember whether
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
So this is the 2nd consecutive win for her, which I think is just astounding, because this field is not a weak field. There's a lot of really good, strong players in it.
Right, and Zatansky was our standard bearer in the previous decade. She alongside Arena Crush.
Yep.
And Arena Crush, played a perfectly good tournament in terms of keeping pace and taking her chances, but she was just too far behind with the blistering pace set by Yip and Tokyonova. So anyway, so black plays. Okay, so I don't know if one should call it the King's Indian yet. It's sort of more like a Pirtz now.
Or modern or something. Yeah.
Modern defense of some kind.
Don't you feel that knight on d2 is misplaced? It would be much better on c3.
Of course.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's my instinct as well.
But anyway, so this sort of game, white should be able to obtain a slight edge. But black has very dynamic possibilities.
Yeah,
and
this is who knows at this point.
Yeah, who knows? So white has played c3. That's the justification for white's setup. Black plays e5. White captures.
That's an interesting recapture.
Yeah, it's an interesting recapture. And to some extent, if we capture again, then we'll have a formation where white's knight actually is better on d2 rather than c3. So in this formation here, actually, a knight on c3 is considered to be inferior because it doesn't allow control of d4.
Correct.
So that's a revelation. There was a great article, I guess, in the American Chess Magazine about that a year or 2 ago. So anyway, so black is increasing the potential energy of her position. White has a fine game. It's just a question of what are the players going to find to do. And so right now, black just defending things. As long as black has good squares to the pieces, black isn't worried about lagging a bit in development. Now the one aspect
that's pretty aggressive.
is aggressive. And now we see that white would like to pick up the bishop on d3 and place it on g2.
Absolutely.
But arranging that will take a few moves. So white played f3 to prevent a visitation on g4.
Encouraging h5. Yes.
Encouraging h5. Now the engine still says after queen f2 that white is better. But this practical thing is here, white does not really have any entry points. So white, controls more space still, certainly on the queen side. But it's a question of what are you going to do? Now,
hey, Ken, I want to point out I've got a lot of experience with this pawn structure as white, and often when the c pawn is on c5, you end up winning these games routinely as white. But with the pawn on c7, it has the option. It's controlling d6, so the knight can't get in there, for example, and it also has the option of taking d5 away if the knight goes to e3 by playing c6. So keeping that pawn on c7 is very important in this kind of pawn structure from white. So I think that I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah. Okay. That's good to know. Now here, the real thing is, so the engine says that white gets a great advantage with this move.
Really?
But, he has had to calculate a bit. What's wrong with h4? So it turns out that white would be at a disadvantage in this position, except for the resource bishop f1.
Yeah.
Okay. And kicking the queen out, and then you're able to take the c pawn.
Right.
But this still needs a lot of calculation. I guess the black can take and play knight h5. It's not so clear. Maybe black can sack the knight and bishop 8 f4 check. Well, this needs a lot of calculation. So maybe
it does look like a good move, though. I wonder what Yip had up her sleeve for that.
Yeah, well, white played the moves in the opposite order. Okay. And white could have played queen c5. And now what black should do is a move that looks ugly. So I don't understand. Isn't black just losing here? Okay. But apparently not. Apparently this queen side actually isn't attackable very easily.
Yeah, can't get at it, right?
It does guard some important squares on the d file and
Exactly.
b5. So
maybe you should relocate your bishop from h3 to c1, offering exchange. And if black will play g7 or bishop f8, then you play bishop e3, and I think white is still better.
yeah.
Yeah, but how you don't? That doesn't help you attack the queenside pawn structure. So.
Well, agree. But
I agree
I
with you. I agree with your assessment.
I'm trying to find how not to lose.
Yeah, so Zatansky, maybe a little bit of a loss of nerve, or thinking the d5 square and the difficulty black has of defending c7 was definitive. But it's amazing. White is going to be lost in under 10 moves from this position. So now black goes for the counterplay, and white took, which I had to say raise eyebrows on me.
It does. Me too.
Why not knight d5? So how did black prevent knight d5?
Why not knight d5? Screaming to be played.
Yeah, screaming to be played. And I guess this is what you had in mind as white, and then you take a little further look at it and you don't like it. That's why chess is hard. So
good point.
Yeah. So anyway, white took this. Okay. Now king g7. Maybe white underestimated that. Now the rook is potentially coming in on the h8 square. And now these next moves are just, they're just not the move. Queen c5 or knight d5, those were the move. Now black has this latent power on the h file. Okay, now bishop c4 looks like it's doing something. It's really not.
It's really not. Yeah.
Black's queen is on a good square.
I wanted to move to f6. Yeah.
Yeah. So, white's up a pawn. White has two beautiful looking bishops attacking air in the on the queen side, and now white plays queen c5. But black is ready to strike. Now compared to other variations where we looked at this, black has the entire army ready to go.
Absolutely.
So black not going to worry about losing a few pawns. And this may be a desperation move, seems to be trading queens, was not. Black is perfectly happy to allow white to take the e-pawn with check. Black has invaded white's position, and white is already completely lost.
Completely, yeah.
Yes, so get rid of the defender, then play that. And this is just taking over squares. I'm sure the fact that black's rook on h8 can join the party potentially has some bearing on this position. But now it's just mate, because black is going to play knight d1 check, and the bishop on f1 will no longer be defended. So after this move, Zatansky gave up.
What a massacre. Yeah. So I was watching all these games, and very nice commentaries. Fantastic.
Enterprising play. That's how you win.
Yeah. Don't you think that Caruana is becoming a real contender for the world championship? his game is getting stronger and stronger. And he sees so much, and now I think he figured out how to control his nerves because he's not getting in a worse position, spending a lot of time going in a time trouble and all that stuff. He's playing now on a very high level with very, very seldom situations where he loses control of the game. It's in my opinion.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see as a renaissance. I mean, it was almost 10 years ago that he
Yeah.
was 28-44, third highest rating in history.
Hmm.
And when he played Carlsen for the World Championship in 2018, he was only 3 ELO points behind, 28-32 to Carlsen's 28-35. But
I think he was then shaken by all this candidate tournament in Russia, and when it was delayed for 1 year, and the Nepomniachtchi was in a very good form, or so on. I don't think that even at that time Nepomniachtchi was playing better than Caruana, but the circumstances were heavily against Caruana, unfortunately. But I think the way he's playing now, I think even Carlsen should beware because Carlsen recently started to play
A little shakier. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's losing to some second. Well,
Yeah, it's all relative,
The
but at that
Indians.
level, yes. Yeah.
but people, 200-300 points lower rated.
You wouldn't expect these losses.
Yeah.
You never
Yeah.
would have in the past.
Yeah, I think on a bad day he should draw these players easily, but because he's overconfident and playing.
Well, Caruana ran into the Carlsen strategy of just drawing the slow games and then winning in the fast games. And
Yeah.
But Caruana style is cleaner than Carlsen because Carlsen is a real player's player. He just wants to play a game and outplay you. Well, of course, if he can. And Caruana is playing almost scientific game. His opening preparation is second to none with both black and white, and it's very balanced repertoire. So I think that
you know who I get a feeling for, Sasha? You can correct me if this is wrong, but when I watch his games, I feel like I'm looking at Karpov's games. Very controlled, very precise. I never feel like he's out of control of the game. And
interestingly enough, Kasparov believes that Carlsen's style is a combination of Karpov and Fischer styles. I think that in his, not necessarily his games, because he plays different openings and so on.
Sure.
If you remember Botvinnik's games, Botvinnik was one of the most prepared players.
Yes.
I don't think that Botvinnik was better than at that time Smyslov, Bronstein, Keres, Reshevsky. Botvinnik was just the best prepared player. Yeah. His motivation was very strong.
Mentally, physically. Yeah.
That's right. So that's what Caruana probably is approaching the maximum of Botvinnik's balanced play, very good preparation, very good psychic style. I think that's
and like you say, Ken, was that taken back with the after Bishop takes C3, Pawn takes C3? Was that preparation? It's a really good question because if it is, then that's really deep preparation.
Yes, that is. Yes, that's something. Yeah, which I'd be very curious to know. It does matter to my cheating detection activities to know in certain games how far prep went, even beyond book. I mean, that was certainly the case in Niemann's game against Carlsen a year ago. So,
tell me Niemann's result. Do you think is it positive for him, negative, or was
it? Was just what you'd expect. I mean, I think I measure him playing right at 2,700 level this past year. Even some of the opens where he didn't do so well. His rating is 2667. He got an even score in a tournament with average rating 2682. His rating performance was therefore exactly midway between his rating and 2,700. So it was about what you would expect. He tried very hard to grind down Lanier Dominguez in a night ending, but the position was just too blocked. On the other hand, as black, he was never in danger of losing that game. So that says something. And
has to learn a few things here and there.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's still relatively young, and
Yeah, no, he can improve. Right?
right.
I think that he should improve to 27, 50, or maybe 70 in the next 2-3 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
He has potential, probably.
He does, absolutely. I'm just tipping my hat to the entire U.S. team. I don't know how they're going to do at the next Olympiad, but they're going to field a strong team. But
Very-
again, it depends on who shows up and plays.
Jim, they should field 2 teams.
Mm-hmm.
That's
They could.
two open teams in open tournament and ladies team separately.
Sure.
So that's a way to do it, because it would be very helpful actually if US would offer provide the chess Olympiad to hold it.
Oh gosh, we've been.
Then US would have right to put as many as 5 teams.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a very interesting development.
Yeah.
You would not be sure that the first US team would necessarily win this event. It could be second US team.
Yeah. Well, if we want a harbinger of the future that we're talking about, let's just look at the standings in the Qatar Open right now.
Oh,
one
yes.
round to go. So you have Arjun Erigaisi in sole first, but Nakamura, who won today, on his heels. Two
Wow.
other Indians, Narayanan, but not to be overlooked, 3 Uzbeks.
Oh my goodness!
And they're the Olympic champions.
Yes,
So there's a lot of young talent around everywhere.
absolutely. They really made a statement in the
Yeah.
last Olympiad.
Mhm.
It's becoming very competitive sport, and with so many tournaments and so brilliant commentaries on each tournament or so on. Sometimes I found Nava and I, no Nava even more than I, we're watching chess probably 7-8 hours a day.
Wow.
Really?
Wow.
At least now we have a break because U.S. Championship is over. But when it was on, it was just incredible.
Yeah, I've
You
not
don't
had
want to
time
miss the games. You don't want to miss commentaries. So you don't want to sit all night to watch replay. So you want to see it all in real time.
Mhm.
And you have to stick by TV.
Well, that's really interesting, Sasha, because we have the women's senior national championship coming up,
Mhm.
and I've been thinking about how are we going to broadcast? Do we broadcast every move of every game? Do we do a recap? Do we do a mix? So your comment is really timely for me to hear. I don't know if we can. We really don't have a budget for commentary for the entire tournament. So I think we're going to have to choose when we're going to have commentary, live commentary.
But tell me, what time control in this tournament?
Well, the games start at 10 and 3, so the time control is faster than normal, but still slow enough to have a serious game. And I've forgotten now. I saw the announcement, but it didn't register because I'm not playing what the time control was. But I know the schedule, which is on Saturday and Sunday it'll be 10 and 3, and the round starting.
Well, it's hard to say. If you have tournament with the star players, like major stars, like Nakamura, Carlson, Caruana, and so on, it attracts automatically attention with or without commentaries. Of course, with commentaries, especially on a very high level, in my opinion, the commentaries are becoming so indispensable part of the experience that I would put commentaries on a higher level than the games themselves, because the games themselves, sometimes they could be brilliant games, no question asked. There could be some dull draws, very quick draws or something like that. Although I appreciate what they did in these tournaments, they disallowed draw offers. Okay?
Oh.
They would not draw offers. The only thing is they had to either see 3 moves repetition, that would be a draw, and of course when there is not enough mating material, so that would be a draw as well.
Wow.
But other than that, there is no draw offers. They have to just continue playing. Okay, and it was few times that there were just one more move and there is 3 times repetition. It was in women's tournament, of course, and she played different move. avoiding 3 times competition. So this is a very important part of the experience, spectators' experience, to have commentaries, because if you're lucky, the commentaries themselves can become a show itself.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter what games are being played and who is leading and so on, but the good commentaries, like ones that we saw, is becoming a very, very interesting experience.
I had a conversation with a woman who was working for the Magnus, this company, and she was an IM, and she was, doing the commentary on these games, and I was talking to her about whether or not she wanted to put her energies into becoming a GM, and my argument was, like, your commentaries are worth more than that title.
Absolutely.
I wasn't sure I was convincing her, but
I'd like her to be a GM. So
yeah. I think I was half kidding, but there is something to the fact that she was kind of a star on the show all the time.
Because a GM title, after all, there are so many 14 years old girls who are all GMs and playing fantastically well. So
that hurts my heart.
Yeah. It's too bad, yeah. But listen, good luck to them. I would like to thank you both for participating in today's program. I think we had quality time, and I'm looking forward to see you next week, same time, same place. Thank you so much, everybody.
Yep. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay. Right.